last year. this is a great chapters tonight. Oh, this is just excellent. So we're going to be in 1 Samuel 25. And if you students want to make a way and find a seat, we're ready to get started here. So let's have a word of prayer and we'll get going. Father God, I'm thankful tonight for the rain, first of all, and for a place to climb in out of the rain. Most of all, we're grateful for your word. And tonight, as we look at this, I pray that your Spirit would be given permission to come into our hearts and minds and open us up, reveal to us truths that are so often overlooked, but are so prevalent, so plain. And may we see that tonight and give you glory in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, 1 Samuel 25, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we'll start with 1, and then we'll go on. So would you read verse 1, and then I'll have you read the rest, Tim.
Now Samuel died, and all Israel assembled and mourned for him. And they buried him at his home in Ramah. Then
Okay.
David moved down into the desert of Paran.
Very good, very good. Now, Saul's death had a lot of effect on a lot of people. Saul and Samuel had a disagreement late in life, and that never got resolved. And I think that Saul regretted that forever, because the night before he died at the hands of the Philistines, he was so desperate to speak to Samuel that he committed a tremendous sin by going to a necromancer, a diviner, to try and speak to the dead. And just terrible. David leaned on him, and so he lost a very important supporter. Interesting, not many people listened to Samuel when he was alive, but they made a great big deal when he died. Isn't that the way it is? And Saul, he gets a statue for himself. And remember when he had disobeyed Samuel, and God spared Agag in that, and Samuel went to look for him. They said, he's down building himself a statue. He wanted to have somebody to remember him by. All Samuel wanted to do was get buried at home. Probably just out in the backyard. Just dig up part of the lawn and dump his body in there. He was such a non-egocentric person. He just a simple guy. So this was and of course David couldn't go to the funeral. That would be troublesome, because Saul would have his spies and they'd be waiting for him, because they would think to themselves, this is a perfect opportunity to catch this guy. He's going to come pay his respects, and then we nailed him. It's been, I don't know how many years ago now, one of the wildest things that ever happened to me. Mr. Pedersen still had his funeral home, and I'd met with the family, got my thing all together, was doing the service, and had no idea. And the lady that passed away, she had a son that was wanted in at least 5 states and he was down in Florida. And FBI, state police, all kinds of people were after him. And they had all talked to David and said, we're coming in. We've got a tip that this boy's coming to pay his last respects to his mama, and we're going to be there dressed as plainclothesmen. David never said a word to me. So I'm going on with my funeral sermon and just about wrapping it up, and this guy in the front hops up and he goes out the door where they keep the flowers. Well, I'd been there for 20 years. I'd never seen anybody go out that door. He went out, and then 4 guys just dressed normal went out after him. David, he's standing in the back doorway, and he is just laughing. Well, we got all done with the funeral, and everybody got ready to put him in the hearse and take him to the cemetery, and I'm in the office, and this woman comes in. She gets right in my face with her finger, and she says, "How dare you set up that? This was supposed to be such a mourning. You have no respect for the dead," and on and on. And I said, "Lady, what are you talking about?" She says, "I'm talking about the sting you set up to catch my nephew." I said, "There was a sting set up to catch your nephew?" I said, "Who is?" She said, "You don't know anything about it?" I said, "No." David is standing right behind her. I'll go back. He is just, oh. So afterwards, he comes up to me and he says, "Bruce, we had this sting, and it was so inclusive. We had FBI in the garage. We had state police in the parking lot. We had the plainclothesmen out on the street. And he still was able to get all the way to Rockies before they nailed him." Yeah, he was slick and could run real fast. It's an ice cream store right there on the corner in Main Town down Rockford. Yeah, he got quite a ways. So they're thinking, David shows up, we've got him. So he doesn't come. And it's got to be hard for him to stay away. But I digress. Tim, would you read verses 2 through 8?
A certain man, Maon, who had property there at Carmel, was very wealthy. He had 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep, which he was shearing in Carmel. His name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. She was an intelligent and beautiful woman, but her husband was surly and mean in his dealings. He was a Calebite. While David was in the wilderness, he heard that Nabal was shearing sheep. So he sent 10 young men and said to them, "Go up to Nabal in Carmel and greet him in my name. Say to him, 'Long life to you, good health to you and your household, and good health to all that is yours. Now I hear that it is sheep shearing time. When your shepherds were with us, we did not mistreat them, and the whole time they were at Carmel, nothing of theirs was missing. Ask your own servants, and they will tell you. Therefore, be favorable toward my men, since we come at a festive time. Please give your servants and your son David whatever you can find for them."
The size of Nabal's wealth was so great that the writer of 1 Samuel doesn't even mention his name, mentions how many animals he's got. how wealthy he is, and then it tells us his name. Now, Maon is in an area that David had been in before, lots of caves there, and the immensity of his herds meant that the shepherds would have to be tending them over large areas, because goats and sheep, they just mow the lawn. And you have to constantly move where the grass can grow. The problem with having such a large area to graze your herds is it opens you up to these Bedouins that spent their livelihoods just going up and down, stealing sheep and goats from places that were not guarded, because the shepherds weren't soldiers. Well, when David was in Maon, he took extra care to watch over these shepherds. Now, why do you suppose he did that? He was a shepherd, identified with these guys. He says, I know what this life is like, and somebody ought to stick up for them, and I know just the guy to do it. So during the time that he was there, he watched over these shepherds, and he also knew what sheep shearing time would be like, because that was part of his job. A lot of festivities, man, a lot of things going. And because this guy was so wealthy, he really put on the dog. I mean, he had all kinds of food, imbibements. I mean, they just partied. So, he was having trouble feeding his 400 men because, they were kind of on the move and they didn't have real jobs and they got hungry now and then. So, David goes and he sends a messenger, 10 of them. And he says, go up to this guy and greet him. And what all does David tell these 10 young men to do? And it starts there in verse 5, verses 5 through 8. What's all the things that David tells these young men to do?
Well, be sure to tell him that we've been around, watching over the sheep and the shepherds.
Absolutely. Remind him that he was watching over their sheep. What else did he tell them to do?
Say in his name, and use David's name, and then to say, have long life, you are prosperous, all that. Peace to all in your house, peace to all that you have.
Yeah, greet Nabal, be respectful, give him a little, slap on the back and say, you're blessed by God, you must be a good man, kind of.
And tell them that you didn't do your shepherds any harm.
We were respectful to your shepherds. What else did he say?
All that they had, they kept.
Yeah, David was partly responsible for the fact that they didn't lose any of their assets. Anything else?
And he says, give us what you can, something wouldn't help.
Yeah, and in verse 8, he reminds Nabal of what?
His shepherds could vouch for David.
Your shepherds can tell you that we were there. As if you would need to tell, but we do this even still. Especially for most Americans, when it gets to be Thanksgiving time, I think everybody knows what's coming next, don't we? Yeah. But you ever notice how advertisers continually tell us, Christmas is coming? No, duh. I get it. We hear the music. We watch the we know Christmas. You don't have to tell us. But in verse 8, David says, be sure that you say what? We've come on a what? Yeah, we've come on a festive day. We know you're celebrating. How wonderful that you're celebrating. We're hungry. Why don't you, in the spirit of the season, as Renee said, give us a little something. Okay, Renee, would you read 9 through 13?
Okay. When David's men arrived, they gave Nabal the message in David's name. Then they waited. Nabal answered David's servant, "Who is this David? Who is this son of Jesse? Many servants are breaking away from their masters these days. Why should I take my bread and water and the meat I have slaughtered for my shearers and give it to men coming from who knows where?" David's men turned around and went back. When they arrived, they reported every word. David said to his men, "Put on your swords." So they put on their swords, and David put on his. About 400 men went up with David, while 200 stayed with the supplies.
Clearly, Nabal's intentions were to do what? Insult David. And it's pretty easy to do because what does he say? Who is he? You're kidding me. You never heard the song, Saul has slain his thousands, David his tens of thousands? You didn't hear about that great big battle where David killed Goliath? You've never heard the name David? It's a very common name. Good girl. Coming through like I know you can. So, who's David? Who's the son of Jesse? I mean, he's trying to imply that David is what? Is a nobody. Why on earth would I give my hard-earned money, supplies, party to somebody that's a nobody? Now, there's another thing that Nabal's concerned about. His place is only about 30 miles from Gibeah, where Saul was from. And Saul was constantly going around in that area hunting for David. You know, the guy that you've never heard of. So Nabal, if he's going to choose sides, who's he going to pick? He's going to pick Saul. I mean, he's the winner. I found it fascinating this morning as I'm reading MLive that coming up to begin the season, you've got a team that has won their conference so many years. They've won so many games. And before the Lions ever reach, my apologies, Gil. Before the Lions ever reach Lambeau Field, the Packers are picked to win. They're picked to win the NFC. How could that be? Well, Gil's a diehard Packers fan. No, he could tell you after the Bible study's over why they're picked to win. It's just crazy. But all the odds makers are going to pick the Packers. The Lions are the underdog. Nabal, he's going to pick the Packers because David's the underdog. And he wants to go out with a winner. so sorry. My apologies, girl. I forgot that you also are the green and yellow. So David felt that Nabal had returned evil for good. That goes with that old adage, no good deed goes unrewarded. Yeah. Okay. Chuck, 14 through 17.
One of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, Behold, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, and he scorned them. Yet the men were very good to us, and we were not insulted, nor did we miss anything as long as we went about with them while we were in the fields. They were a wall to us by night and by day, all the time we were with them tending the sheep. Now therefore, know and consider what you should do, for evil is plotted against our master and against all his household. And he is such a worthless man that no one can speak to him.
Now I want you to look at verse 14, and I want you to catch the significance of this. Who is this guy in verse 14? He's a servant of Nabal. Was David there at the festivities? No. Does this servant of Nabal go back with those 10 guys and hear the plot that David's hatched? No. He's heard of David. He knows what David's, and he knows that David has a character about him that says, vengeance. I'm all about vengeance. That's a character he's never going to lose. Horrible childhood. Family that hates him. No respect. He went for the nation of Israel in front of a giant that the entire army was afraid of. Saul had promised whoever kills that man gets all of these, and he got shafted. This is the story of his life. Now, he loves shepherds. He was aiding these shepherds of Nabal, and he just asked, for some snacks, and maybe a 7-Up. And Nabal says, I'm not giving him a thing. Boy, and it he's got red hair to begin with. You never cross a red-haired person. They can jump on you like that. So, he hears this, and he says, boys, strap them on. We're going. And this young man says to Abigail, trouble's coming. I've heard all about David. I know what he's going to do. He's going to get vengeance because his men were treated poorly. Now, David could be treated poorly and it'd be all right because he's used to it. But he's not about to have his men insulted, made fun of, mocked, ridiculed, and sent away. So, I'm just telling you, Abigail. Now, how do you handle an angry man? Jim, would you read verses 18 through 22?
100 loaves
loaves of bread and 2 jugs of wine and 5 sheep already prepared and 5 measures of roasted grain and 100 clusters of raisins and 200 cakes of figs, and loaded them on donkeys. She said to her young men, "Go on before me, behold, I am coming after you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. It came about as she was riding on her donkey and coming down by the hidden part of the mountain, that behold, David and his men were coming down toward her, so she met them. Now David had said, "Surely in vain I have guarded all that this man has in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that belonged to him, and he has returned me evil for good. May God do so to the enemies of David, and more also, if by morning I leave as much as one male of any one who belonged to him."
Abigail's, she's quite a woman. The list that Jim just read us, I'm telling you, was a lot more than they would have gotten from Nabal. I mean, that's a lot. And she doesn't tell him. What he doesn't know is not going to hurt him. And while she's coming down, David's going up. What a coincidence that they meet. Not a coincidence. The timing of God. He is in charge of this whole thing. She has no idea what David says in verse 21 and 22. She hasn't heard that. He's talking to his guys, not to her. And he said, "It will be a miracle if even one man is left." He's going to kill them all. The innocent and the guilty. David's just going to kill them all. She hasn't heard that part. I think she's heard him, but I think that the servant really had a good picture. Oh, this will be good. This is right up your alley. Read 23 through 31.
30 or 31?
31.
She fell at Harrier's feet and said, "On me alone, my lord, be the blame, and please let your maidservant speak to you, and listen to the words of your maidservant. Please do not let my lord pay attention to this worthless man Nabal, for his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, your maidservant, did not see the young men of my lord whom you sent. Now therefore, my lord, as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, since the Lord has restrained you from shedding blood and from avenging yourself by your own hand, now then, let your enemies and those who seek evil against my lord be as Nabal. Now let this gift which your maidservant has brought to you, my lord, be given to the young men who accompany my lord. Please forgive the transgressions of your maidservant, for the Lord will certainly make for my lord an enduring house, because my lord is fighting the battles of the Lord, and evil will not be found in all your days. Should anyone rise up to pursue you and seek your life, then the life of my lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living with the Lord your God. But the lives of your enemies he will sling out as from the hollow of a sling. And when the Lord does for my lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and appoints you the ruler over Israel, this will not cause grief or a troubled heart to my lord, both by having shed blood without cause, and by my lord having avenged himself. When the Lord deals well with my lord, then remember your maidservant."
How does a woman so smart, so intuitive, so altogether end up with Nabal? Thank you. Stole my thunder right there. No, that's the answer. Yeah, arranged marriage. She didn't have a choice. What do you suppose her dad was thinking? He's rich. I'm going to get the best for my girl. Oh, she's going to have a wonderful life. Nah, it's a horrible life. Huh? Yeah. Just don't go at sheep shearing time. Because Paul will say, who are you? Yeah, she was in an arranged marriage. And I'll tell you, so he's going into enemy territory. I mean, this whole area is patrolled by Saul and his men, and he's taking 400 of his 600 to kill one man. That's overkill. But he's mad. Now, he was going to kill everybody. If they were breathing, he was killing them. Yeah. Now, the first thing she does, verse 23, the first thing she does is what? She gets down off her mount and bows down. Now, she's not just a innocent little girl. She's not a nobody. She's married to one of the most powerful men in the region. I mean, she's got servants who attend to her. Throw that away, and I'm going to bow down. And over, as Robin read, how does she address him? My Lord. I thought she was married to a Lord. Who does she see as the king? Saul? She's not worried about Saul. No. She sees David. David's the king. Now that's got to have something to do with the Holy Spirit coming into this woman. Because she knows things that how could you know? She knows that if he's ever in a fight, he's going to be the winner. If there's a disaster, he's going to come out on top. Oh, man. And in verse 24, he's mad. I mean, he's still mad. He's just met this woman. She's down on her knees talking to him, and he's still boiling. Oh, yeah. Why would she not have any fear in verse 24? Because she's trying to talk him out of something. And he's got his mind made up, along with 400 guys who've got their swords ready to go. Why doesn't she have any fear? Verse 24. Well, that's part of it, but let's go back culturally. There's a difference between then and now. She's a woman. Hard to believe, but there was a time in our world where women and children were off limits. Isn't that amazing? And today life has become so cheap all over that women and children are no different. In fact, they're more of a target because they're incapable. I mean, to go into a Catholic church during Mass and kill children? How crazy is that? So she's not worried. David's not going to kill her. That's gonna change in a chapter, but right now she's safe. She probably was.
This has got to be like this out of her mouth. I mean, I honestly, I don't think that she probably was rehearsing this. I think she was panicking. This is God speaking.
Yeah.
You know, because if she hadn't gone up, if she hadn't met him, if she hadn't spoken this whole speech, then yeah, he would have gone and killed everyone, and it would have set an example to murder you and everyone around you.
Yeah. And that would have been horrible for his resume. I want to be king of Israel. Oh yeah, we don't want you. We heard what you did. Yeah, so she says, don't do this. And then in verse 26, that's exactly, she said, I'm here to restrain you. And this is going to be good for you. Believe it or not, David, this is going to be good for you in your coming kingdom. It's going to be good for your reputation. It's going to be good for you personally because you're not going to have to sit in the darkness of night seeing all those innocent faces that you butchered. I didn't know about it. I wasn't there when your servants showed. Why didn't you tell them to come see me? And then notice, this is great, verse 29. She mentions something twice that must have resonated with David. I love it. Because you asked, had she heard of David? Sure. And we know it from verse 29. What does she say in verse 29? Keep going right to the very last sentence of verse 29. Yeah, and in your version, Renee, you've only got it down once. New American Standard uses that word twice. He will sling out your enemies like the hollow of your sling. Who's he talking to? Who's she talking to? David. Yeah, what was his weapon of choice? A sling. That's how he killed Goliath. And here it is. She uses that term, your sling. Oh, I love that. I mean, that's coming from somebody because she's just that quick with it. Now, Brian, you got your reading glasses on, or are those just your looking glasses?
That's because I look good.
You, eye candy, that's what I'm thinking.
I see you copying me.
Well, read with your eyeglasses 32 through 38.
Okay. And David said to Abigail, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who sent you this day to meet me. Blessed be your discretion, and blessed be you, who have kept me this day from blood guilt, and from working salvation with my own hand. For as surely as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, who has restrained me from hurting you, unless you had hurried to come to meet me, truly by morning there had not been left to Nabal so much as one man." Then David received from her hand what she had brought him, and he said to her, "Go up in peace to your house. See, I have obeyed your voice, and I have granted your petition." And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he was holding a feast in his house, like the feast of a king, and Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunk. So she told him nothing at all until morning light. In the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died within him, and he became as a stone. And about 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died.
Why does Abigail have such an advantage in dealing with David when his temper is at an all-time high. Where did she learn these lessons? The guy she's married to. She's dealt with this for years. Somebody that is ill-tempered, irrational. Notice in verse 26, what does that give me? Wait a minute. I saw that. She says, listen to me. And she would have to say that a lot because I doubt that Nabal ever did. Yeah, puts the blame on herself, and then she says, listen. Yeah, right there in verse 24. Listen, listen, listen. And, women have an ability to, in an argument, women assume that whatever they're arguing with has already been settled. You ever notice that? Women have a peculiar way. They can listen and yeah. You keep talking. It's already settled. This is how it's going to be. And I can. Well, let's go to the New Testament. They're at a wedding in Cana. And Jesus is just there as a guest. He hasn't announced his ministry. He's just biding his time. And his mom comes up and says, they're out of wine. Big whoop, Mom. That's not on me. I'm a guest. And back and forth they go. And he says, this is not my time, which is in his words saying, no, I'm not doing it. And notice what she says to the servants, do whatever he tells you. And then she walks away because she knows. She knows. He said no. She says, do whatever he says because, and I've got to tell you that when I read that passage over and over every single year, I think to myself, at that moment in time, because I know he was God, but at that moment in time, he was human. That he must have had, when she turned around and said, do whatever he tells you, I've got to believe that he had a grin on his face because he's thinking to himself, I created her. I should have known that was coming. Because that's how he made women. And, but she just nailed her own boy. And it's just great. Okay. So she waits till he gets sober. And he thanks her because she was all right. I mean, she was 100% true. It would have been a disaster for him to kill this man and his servants, especially in the long run, because he wants to be the king of this nation. And these people, Nabal and a couple others that you're going to, Jezreel, and that's going to come into play. These were Judahites. They were from his own tribe. So he said, you're right. You're right. And then verse 31, Read between the lines and tell me what you hear. Yes. When you become the king, remember me. And from there we can go a whole lot of ways. If I'm ever a widow, give me a call. If I'm ever available, give me a call. "10 days. He gets this, after he sleeps it off, she says, man, oh man, you came this close to being dog meat. I mean, David was going to slit you up. And he hears that, he has a stroke. Who wouldn't? I mean, he just escaped death, has a stroke. 10 days later, he dies. All right. Man, she didn't know it was going to be this quick. Mary Lee, would you read 39 through 44?
Treating me with contempt. He has kept his servant from doing wrong, and has brought Nabal's wrongdoing down on his own head. Then David sent word to Abigail, asking her to become his wife. The servants went to Carmel and said to Abigail, David has sent us to take you to become his wife. She bowed down with her face to the ground and said, I am your servant, and am ready to serve you and wash the feet of my Lord's servants. Abigail quickly got on a donkey, and attended by her 5 female servants, went with David's messengers and became his wife. David had also married Ahinoam of Jezreel, and they both were his wives. But Saul had given his daughter Michal, David's wife, to Patel, son of Laish, who was from Galilee.
He puts that in there, the author puts that in there because as you're hearing this story for the very first time, you must have been thinking to yourself, wow, she opened that door and said, don't forget about me. And then as soon as her husband died, David remembers. He says, how would you like to be my wife? And she doesn't think about it. She doesn't say, I'll get back to you. Notice what it said? Whew, she's up quick. Where's my donkey? I got to get there. And that is a feather in David's cap because this is part of Judah tribe, and he has just married one of the most powerful, wealthiest men in that area of the country. And where do you suppose all that power and wealth went? To David. Then it tells us he married Ahinoam of Jezreel, who also was in that same area, about 5-10 miles apart. She also was married to a man of distinction, powerful. So he's beginning to make, what do they call that when the king would marry? Solomon did it all the time. That's right. That's not the word I was looking for. It was about establishing power. They would marry. I can't think of it. Let me see if I've got it in my notes. She was, I've got it here someplace. It was, it just gets me when I can't think of what the word is. It was a political marriage that helped to consolidate your. You marry this princess, and then that becomes part of your territory, and then you marry this princess. You're always marrying women who were from powerful families, but they weren't as powerful as you. And that's how you would build up your kingdom. So he's got two women here, but then the author wants us to be sure, because as you're listening to this for the first time, maybe some of the listeners were thinking, well, David is already married. What happened to his wife, Michal? Well, when remember, she did the old trick where you put the pillows, arrange the pillows in the bed so they think somebody's there. And then he had the goat's hair thing because his hair was just so crazy, and the guy looked in and said, yep, that's David. I can see his haircut. When she did that and David escaped, this was before Nob and the priest being annihilated and Doeg and all that. Saul, because he was so mad, gave her to somebody crummy. David's wife, Palti, the son of Laish. Now, down the road, David's going to make an alliance. That's the word, alliance. David's going to make an alliance. And when he does, he's going to tell the people in that region, before I sign my name on this line, there's something you've got to do for me. I want Michal back. And this guy, he's on his knees, he's crying his eyes out because he liked her. And, she wasn't the same girl that he fell in love with. Because when he comes and brings the Ark of the Covenant back, David is undressed, he's dancing, he's running around with other servants, men and women who are less than he is, not acting like a king. And Michal's father was a king. And she has a negative thing to say about his antics, his dance, his celebration. And he said, little missy, I wasn't trying to be a king. I was trying to be a follower of my God. That's what I was trying to be, was a worshiper. And if you don't like it, you're going to have to deal with it. And God closed her womb, and she never had a child. So, we're going to quit there. I know it's 7 minutes early, but I don't want to get into the next chapter because I get too excited about these things. And alliance. It was an alliance he was forming. That was the word. Why couldn't you think of that? She was not gold digging. That's what he was doing. She had all the money and power. Yeah, that was his sugar mama. Yeah, Steve knows all about that, don't you?